You're driving home after dinner with your family. Red and blue lights flash in your mirror. Your heart sinks, but you're not worried. You haven't done anything wrong. You pull over safely, and the officer walks up to your window with that familiar question. Do you know why I pulled you over? Every single day, thousands of drivers fall for this line. They think they're being helpful. They think honesty will get them a warning instead of a ticket. But here's what you don't realize. That question isn't small talk. It's trick number one, in a tactical playbook designed to make you surrender your rights before you even know what's happening. After analyzing over 800 traffic stop cases and reviewing hundreds of hours of body cam footage, I've identified 5 evil tricks police use during traffic stops. Tricks that turn routine encounters into searches, tickets into arrests, and your own words into evidence against you. By the end of this video, you'll know the exact phrases that stop these tricks cold. This is educational content only. For specific legal guidance, consult a licensed attorney in your jurisdiction. But right now, let's expose these 5 evil tricks so you're prepared the next time those lights flash behind you. Trick number 1, the admission question. Picture this. You see the lights, you pull over safely, you turn on your dome light, and you place your hands on the steering wheel. The officer approaches, and the first words out of their mouth are, "Do you know why I pulled you over?" Most people think this is a friendly icebreaker, so they answer honestly. "I think I was going a little fast," or "Was I speeding?" or "Did I not use my turn signal back there?" The moment those words leave your mouth, you've just confessed to a traffic violation. You did the officer's job for them. They don't even need radar evidence anymore. Your own admission becomes the proof. And here's what makes this evil. Body cams record everything. Your own words, captured on video, become Exhibit A if you ever try to fight the ticket in court. Let me show you exactly how this plays out. Here's a realistic exchange. Officer, license and registration, do you know why I pulled you over? Most people, I think I might have been going a bit fast. I'm sorry, I was just trying to. Officer, how fast do you think you were going? Most people, I don't know, maybe 5 over? I really wasn't paying attention to my speed. Stop right there. You just admitted to speeding and to distracted driving. 2 violations instead of 1. And the officer never even had to tell you what they pulled you over for. Here's why people fall for this. We're conditioned to answer questions. When authority asks something, we feel obligated to respond. Plus, most people think being cooperative means being talkative. They believe if they admit to a small mistake, the officer will appreciate their honesty and let them off with a warning. But here's the legal reality. That admission is evidence. Traffic stops are investigations, and everything you say can be used in court. Officers are trained to gather this evidence through conversation. And this question is specifically designed to get you to incriminate yourself voluntarily. So what do you say instead? The exact words are, "No, officer." That's it. 2 words. Calm, polite, respectful, but definitive. Officer, do you know why I pulled you over? You, "No, officer." This response does 3 critical things. First, it forces the officer to state their reason for the stop on camera. Second, it prevents you from admitting to violations they might not even have evidence for. Third, it keeps you neutral. You're not arguing. You're not defensive. You're simply not doing their investigation for them. If the officer pushes back with something like, "Come on, you really don't know," you respond, "I prefer not to guess, officer. Can you tell me why you stopped me?" Remember? No, officer. Stay calm, stay polite, stay protected. The less you volunteer, the stronger your position. Body cams record your cooperation and your composure, not just your words. That's the first trick, the admission question. But protecting yourself from self-incrimination is just the beginning. Your Fourth Amendment rights against unreasonable searches operate independently from your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. And trick number 2 is where officers exploit that gap. Right after you've refused to answer their first question, they pivot to a different constitutional right you might not know how to protect. Trick number 2, the consent confusion. You've just successfully avoided admitting to anything by saying "no, officer," when asked if you know why you were pulled over. The officer takes your license and registration, goes back to their vehicle, and runs your information. Everything seems routine. But when they return, you hear these words. "Nothing illegal in the car, right?" You answer honestly, "No, nothing illegal." And then the trap snaps shut. "Then you wouldn't mind if I take a quick look, right?" Think about that question carefully. You wouldn't mind if I take a quick look, right? It's phrased as a question, but it's actually a psychological manipulation. If you say yes, the officer can claim you gave consent. If you say no, the officer can argue you said you don't mind, which also sounds like consent. Either way, they're recording your response and interpreting it as permission to search. This is evil because it's deliberately confusing. The phrasing makes it almost impossible to respond correctly without knowing exactly what words to use. And here's what makes it worse. The moment you consent to a search, you've waived your Fourth Amendment rights. Consent cures almost any legal problem the officer might have. Let me show you how this conversation escalates. Officer: "Nothing illegal in the vehicle?" Driver: "No, nothing illegal." Officer: "So you wouldn't mind if I take a quick look then?" Driver: I guess not, if it's quick." Officer: "Great, step out of the vehicle for me." Stop. You just consented. And now the officer is going to spend the next 30 minutes tearing through your car, checking under seats, opening compartments, emptying your trunk. And if they find anything, even something you didn't know was there, you can't claim it was an illegal search. You gave permission. Here's why people fall for this trick. The question makes refusal seem suspicious. People think, if I say no, the officer will assume I'm hiding something. Plus, the phrasing preys on our desire to be agreeable. But here's the legal reality. If officers had legal grounds to search your car, they wouldn't be asking for your permission. The fact that they're asking means they need your consent because they don't have probable cause. The correct response requires absolute clarity. The exact words are, "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Let me say that again. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." And a third time, because this phrase is that critical. "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Here's how this plays out when you use the right words. Officer: "You wouldn't mind if I take a look in the vehicle?" You: "Officer, I do not consent to any searches." Officer: "Why not? You got something to hide?" You: "I do not consent to any searches. Am I free to leave?" Notice what you're doing. You're not arguing. You're not explaining. You're not justifying. You're simply exercising your constitutional right clearly and on camera. Body cams record your exact words, and "I do not consent to any searches" is unambiguous. Stay calm when you say this. Your tone matters as much as your words. You're not being rude, you're being firm. Cooperation does not mean conversation, and it definitely doesn't mean surrendering your constitutional rights. Remember, officer, I do not consent to any searches. That's your shield against trick number 2. You've now protected your Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination and your Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches. But there's a third constitutional protection that operates during traffic stops. After analyzing hundreds of cases, I've found that this next trick specifically targets your Sixth Amendment right to counsel. And it happens in a moment when people think they're still just having a conversation. Trick number 3, the friendly interrogation. You've refused to answer the "Do you know why I pulled you over?" question. You've refused consent to search. But the officer doesn't leave. Instead, they lean against your door and start what feels like casual conversation. "So where are you coming from tonight? Where are you headed? Been drinking at all this evening?" These questions sound like small talk. They sound like the officer is just being conversational while they finish writing your ticket. But here's the evil truth. This is an interrogation disguised as conversation. Every single question is designed to gather evidence against you. Let me show you how this conversation becomes a trap. Officer, where are you coming from tonight? Driver, just dinner with friends. Officer, oh yeah? Where at? Driver, that Italian place on 5th Street. Officer, have anything to drink with dinner? Driver, just one glass of wine with my meal like 2 hours ago. Stop. You just admitted to drinking and driving. Doesn't matter that it was one glass 2 hours ago. You've now given the officer reasonable suspicion to investigate you for DUI. Here's why people fall for this trick. The questions seem harmless. People think staying silent will make them look guilty, so they answer freely. They believe if they tell the truth, the officer will see they have nothing to hide. But here's the legal reality. You are under no obligation to answer these questions. Traffic stops have a specific legal purpose: to address the traffic violation. Questions about where you're going, where you've been, and what you've been doing go beyond that scope. The exact words that stop this trick are, "I'm exercising my right to remain silent." Let me repeat that. I'm exercising my right to remain silent. And again, because courts require explicit invocation, I'm exercising my right to remain silent. Here's the critical legal point. You must actually say these words. In Salinas versus Texas, the Supreme Court ruled that simply staying silent isn't enough. You have to explicitly invoke your Fifth Amendment right. Here's how this plays out correctly. Officer, where are you coming from tonight? You, I'm exercising my right to remain silent. Am I free to leave? Officer, why are you being difficult? I'm just asking a simple question. You, I'm exercising my right to remain silent, and I'd like to speak with an attorney. Notice what you just did? You invoked two constitutional rights at once: your Fifth Amendment right to remain silent and your Sixth Amendment right to counsel. Both phrases are captured on body cam, and both stop the interrogation legally. When you say these words, stay calm and respectful. Don't be sarcastic, don't roll your eyes. The more composed you are, the better you look on camera. Remember, be respectful, not talkative. You can be polite while protecting yourself. You've protected yourself against self-incrimination, refused consent to search, and invoked your right to remain silent. But there's one more way officers extend traffic stops beyond their legal scope, and this trick specifically targets time. The Supreme Court ruled in Rodriguez versus United States that officers cannot prolong a traffic stop beyond the time necessary to address the original violation. But trick number 4 is how officers get around that ruling. Trick number 4, the drug dog delay. You've handled everything correctly so far. The officer goes back to their vehicle to write your ticket, and you think the stop is almost over. But then you hear it. I've called for a K9 unit to come out and do a quick walk around your vehicle. Just sit tight. Shouldn't take more than 15 or 20 minutes. This is where most people make their final mistake. They sit there and wait. They think they have to. But here's the evil truth. The officer is betting you don't know your rights regarding detention time. The Supreme Court addressed this exact situation in Rodriguez versus United States. The court ruled that once the purpose of a traffic stop is complete, meaning once the officer has written your ticket or given you a warning, they cannot extend the stop to wait for a drug dog unless they have independent, reasonable suspicion of criminal activity. Here's how this trap unfolds. Officer, all right, here's your ticket for 15 over. Sign here. You sign the ticket? Officer, now just wait here while we get a dog out to check your vehicle. Most people, okay, sits and waits. Wrong. The stop is over. You signed the ticket. The officer's legal authority to detain you ended right there. The exact question that stops this trick is, am I free to leave or am I being detained? Let me say that again. Am I free to leave or am I being detained? This question forces the officer to make a legal declaration. Either you're free to leave, in which case you leave immediately, or you're being detained, which means they must have legal grounds to hold you. Here's how this plays out correctly. Officer, here's your ticket. Now wait here while we get the K9 unit out. You, am I free to leave or am I being detained? Officer, just wait here. You, I understand, but am I free to leave or am I being detained? Notice what you're doing. You're forcing the officer to answer yes or no. If they say you're free to leave, you thank them politely and drive away. If they say you're being detained, you have now established on camera that the officer is extending the stop. Here's the critical timing. Ask this question the moment the officer hands you the ticket or tells you you're getting a warning. Don't wait. If the officer says you're being detained, follow up with, for the record, what is the specific reason you're detaining me beyond the traffic violation? Stay calm when you ask these questions. You're not arguing. You're clarifying your legal status. Remember, am I free to leave or am I being detained? Ask it the moment the traffic stop's original purpose is complete. That covers 4 tricks officers use to extend stops, gather evidence, and search vehicles. But there's one final trick that's the most dangerous of all, because of what it makes you think is acceptable. Trick number 5, the intimidation illusion. You've protected yourself through an entire traffic stop, but now comes the officer's final weapon, and it's purely psychological. Well, if you won't consent, I'll just go get a warrant. And trust me, when I come back with that warrant, I'm going to tear this car apart. You're going to be sitting here for 2 hours. Your call. This is the intimidation illusion. The officer is making you believe they have more power than they actually do. They're betting you'll crack under pressure and give consent just to get it over with. But here's the evil truth. If the officer actually had enough evidence for a warrant, they would have gotten one before approaching you. Let me show you how this manipulation plays out. Officer, last chance. You sure you don't want to just let me take a look? Because if not, I'm calling a judge right now. Most people's inner monologue, oh God, I don't want to sit here for 2 more hours. Maybe I should just let them search so this is over. Most people, okay, fine, you can search. Wrong. You just surrendered everything you protected up to this point. But here's the legal reality. Getting a warrant takes time, evidence, and judicial approval. The officer needs to demonstrate to a judge that they have probable cause. If they could do that, they wouldn't need your consent in the first place. The exact response that defeats this trick is, I do not consent to any searches. If you believe you have grounds for a warrant, you can pursue that. Am I free to leave? Here's how this plays out correctly. Officer, if you don't let me search, I'm getting a warrant and you're sitting here for 2 hours. You, I do not consent to any searches. If you believe you have grounds for a warrant, you can pursue that. Am I free to leave? Officer, you're really going to make this difficult? You, I'm exercising my constitutional rights. Am I free to leave? Notice what you're doing. You're calling the bluff without saying you're bluffing. You're standing firm on your rights while remaining respectful. Here's the psychology behind why this works. Officers rely on intimidation because most people don't know their rights well enough to stand firm. The moment you demonstrate you understand the law and you're not backing down, the dynamic changes. Remember, stay calm, stay polite, but stay firm. I do not consent to any searches. Am I free to leave? Here's what you need to understand. These 5 tricks aren't random tactics. They're part of a systematic approach officers are trained to use. But now, you know exactly how to counter each one. You know the 4 phrases that protect you through any traffic stop. Number 1, no, officer, when asked if you know why you were pulled over. Number 2, officer, I do not consent to any searches, when asked for permission to search. Number 3, I'm exercising my right to remain silent, and I'd like to speak with an attorney, when questioned beyond the traffic violation. Number 4, am I free to leave or am I being detained? When the stop seems to be extending beyond its original purpose. These 4 phrases are your complete protection. Print them out. Practice them. Memorize them. Here's your practical next step. Right now, save this video. Send it to your family. Share it with your friends. Everyone who drives needs this information. Remember, stay calm, stay polite, and assert your rights clearly. Body cams record everything, so your composure and your exact words matter. This is educational content only, not legal advice. Always consult with a qualified attorney in your state for your specific situation. If you found this information valuable, hit that like button right now. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Drop a comment below and let me know. Have you ever experienced any of these tricks during a traffic stop? You just learned how to protect yourself against 5 evil tricks that cost people their rights every single day. But there are other constitutional protections that work differently in other police encounters, and most people invoke them incorrectly. The next video builds on what you just learned and covers additional legal protections. It's showing on screen now. Watch it to complete your legal education. Most importantly, remember to always assert your rights.